UFC Oklahoma City just took place, and we had a great night of fights. We got a lot to talk about. Let's just get out of the way. I went 7-5 on the card, or I went 5-7 on the card. Excuse me, I went 6-7 on the last card. Channel's not off to a good start, but you know, we move forward. Like and subscribe. We suffer together. We win together. All right, main event. My last thumbnail is gonna be corrected. All right, Dricus du Plessis shows big man things to Kamaru Usman. I thought this fight was not only one. Well, I thought it was gonna go the other way. I thought it was gonna be completely the other way. I can't say that I thought it was gonna be closer. This is the opposite what I thought was gonna happen, and it was maybe 2 or 3 rounds into the fight that I thought it was going to get finished. Kamaru Usman's heart is to be commended, but when he got in there, I didn't really realize it all week, or maybe I just didn't care or wasn't paying enough attention. I was just riding the Kamaru nostalgia while I was watching his old fights. And the Buckley fight, he looked great. This was a game Kamaru Usman who showed up, but this was a game DDP that showed up, and that was the main thing. Kamaru Usman, though, he looked small. He looked small compared to DDP, and that definitely played a factor in this fight. But DDP came in with no need to show massive improvements in wrestling, but you know, he definitely did. He stuffed a couple of takedowns that Usman went for. Usman did get some takedowns, but DDP got right back up. DDP was able to do the thing that, like, all of us wonder, who've never gotten a fight when we watch strikers fight wrestlers, of like, why don't they just knee him in the face when he goes for the takedown? You know, not thinking about how 9 times out of 10 that's exactly what the wrestler wants you to try for. But DDP actually just had the knee available anytime Usman dipped his head. So the fight stayed on the feet, and Usman just couldn't hang. He was game, but he was getting wobbled really early on in the fight, and I never thought anything about the knees, and I was worried about the knees from round 1 when DDP started unloading on Usman, because he was getting wobbly, and I think it was round 3 that was kind of close. I could see giving that to Usman I maybe would have in the moment, because I was starting to feel bad for him, to be honest. But I would give DDP all 5 rounds. This is the best I've ever seen DDP look. Having Kamaru Usman as a name on the resume is a huge feather in your cap. And it's exciting for the middleweight division to show that the guys that are there are elite. And this triangle that we now have fully solidified of DDP, Strickland, Hamzat, you know, that rock, paper, scissors. It's interesting to see if Hamzat does stay at middleweight, how that progresses. And we got a lot of monsters coming up, and some other big boys, you know, RoboCop. That's my dog in this race, but we also got Damian Pinas, Taba Gautier. There's a lot of Christian Leroy Duncan tonight. You know, there's a lot of exciting, powerful fighters coming up the division, and I'm excited for middleweight to feel hot again. Then we had the co-main event. Speaking of the middleweights, Jared Cannonier versus CLD. This was a game Jared Cannonier as well, and he looked older, but he didn't. It didn't so much look like he was old to me as it was that this is really, really good opponent who has a style that doesn't work for him. In addition to being old, he is getting slower every fight, but he's not getting any less tough. And Christian Leroy Duncan is that fast-paced, athletic, creative, elusive striker, bigger frame that Jared Cannonier tends to struggle with. And Christian Leroy Duncan, really exciting to watch. Had some trouble with Jared Cannonier's grappling. There were definitely competitive moments, and on the fence, CLD's got some more to figure out. And I love the spinning shit. It's probably going to get him into trouble. He probably likes it a little too much, but I don't think that surprises anyone. I say keep doing what you're doing. But CLD gets it done. That's a pick I got right. Featured fight of the night, we had Chase Hooper beating Mitch Ramirez, the random guy off the street that I thought could beat Chase Hooper because I'm a hater. And I shows where hating gets you. Chase Hooper shows that he can, in fact, even on a bad weight cut, beat a random guy off the street. And he made quick work of him. I almost forgot what happened in the fight because it seemed so easy for Chase Hooper. Chase Hooper gets it done. Holding it down for the jiu-jitsu nerds. They didn't really do great on this card. Next fight of the night, Fatima Klein versus Tabitha Ricci. This was actually a pretty good fight. Both girls came game to this fight. Tabitha Ricci didn't really have success the whole way through, but she was a good dance partner for Fatima Klein, who was able to showcase really every part of her game to validate why there is so much hype on her, and really took control of every moment of the fight, on the striking, on the ground, in the scrambles. Props to Tabitha Ricci for showing up, staying in that fight. But Fatima Klein showed that she's ready for. This was probably a statement win for her, and shows that she's someone who's ready for fights closer to that top 5 range. And it's good to see her get it done, and more exciting fight than I thought it was going to be. Then we go to the most exciting fight, way more exciting than I thought it was going to be, and includes 2 fighters whose I have to put more respect on their names, but especially Tommy McMillan. Tommy McMillan versus Alberto Montez. Statement performance by Tommy McMillan. Stand up, Vape Nation. Vape Nation, rise up. Both Tommy McMillan and Ezra Elliott, I believe, set records in their performances tonight. Tommy McMillan, I think, for most significant strikes either thrown or landed, or maybe both, in a 3-round fight on his first fight on a main event, or main card, I believe. And just the difference in volume and the pressure that he was able to keep the entire time. The dominance that he was able to show. And Alberto Montez showed up as a game opponent. DC said something about like a Instagram bet that they had made about whoever shoots the first takedown is a pussy or something. I don't know. And that there really wasn't a lot of attempts to get the fight to the ground. Alberto Montez was game on the feet. He didn't throw anywhere near as much, but there were definitely, when he would land and connect, which he did with a decent accuracy, but just didn't throw the volume, couldn't get inside the range. His punches had an effect, his strikes had an effect, and it showed that he was game on the feet. But the ground game didn't last long for either of them, and to see that, someone who, with Tommy McMillan, someone who sets a record like that in so early in their career here and shows that he's got, the wrestling, the pressure, the cardio to keep it up. He does have enough power in his hands that with that volume he can get you down, and to be able to fairly easily get out of jiu-jitsu positions by someone who's at a fairly high level like Alberto Montez. I really thought this was going to be a fight between two guys who I thought might end up kind of in the bottom part of the top 15. And props to Alberto Montez. I still think he's good, but Tommy McMillan, that guy's a star. He's something special. I think easy top 5 for this guy, and I think probably soon. Really exciting to the featherweight addition to the featherweight division, as his teammate, which we'll might as well jump ahead and get to a little out of order. So Ezra Elliott versus Damian Anderson. Ezra Elliott, he looked bad coming into the cage, just like he did after missing weight. But when the doors closed, his pressure was too much for Damian Anderson to really withstand. Now, Damian Anderson was able to maintain composure. You could tell he's very skilled, and he does have good striking. On the feet, he can really hang, which is really cool, knowing how high level his jiu-jitsu is and how much more that his focus between those two styles. But the wrestling of Ezra Elliott proved to be like way too much, and this is another fight where size just mattered. DDP, his girth, his size, his strength was a big factor in why he was able to beat Usman. Tommy McMillan, his size, 6 feet to 5'7", he was able to show big man things to Alberto Montez. And Ezra Elliott, I know Damian Anderson intends to actually fight a bantamweight, but took this fight on short notice just like Ezra Elliott. Ezra Elliott just dominated with the wrestling, using his size and just his wrestling skills. And Damian Anderson doesn't have wrestling defense in his skill set. Was able to get up a lot of the time from some of the takedowns, but the control wrestling of Ezra Elliott proved to be too much for Damian Anderson. And he didn't really do a lot with it, but it was easy to not notice. I believe on the commentary they said that Ezra Elliott set the record for the most takedowns in a 3-round fight at featherweight. So that's pretty impressive if that's correct for a short notice UFC debut. So it's a great night to the Red Hawk camp. Congratulations to Tim Welch, being a dad, being able to be proud of his 2 new sons in the UFC. Couldn't be prouder of Vape Nation. I'll never doubt Vape Nation again. I love you guys. Vape Nation, rise up. But the headliner of the prelims was Austin Bashi versus Jose Delgado. Another fight I got wrong. Another fight I'm happy to get wrong. in another fight where it, I don't think the frame was an advantage for Jose Delgado here. This could be another big man's thing type of fight. Now, Austin Bashi, he is by no means a small featherweight because he may be short, but he is really muscular. I don't remember thinking of him as being as juicy as he was during the weigh-ins this week as I had seen him in prior fights. Uh, and he is very skilled at what he does. And I've thought people have been kind of underestimating his striking when they've talked about him. I've thought when I was looking at his regional fights that he is a pretty effective striker actually, and it works really well in combination with his grappling. But Jose Delgado has enough defensive counter wrestling that he was able to keep Austin Bashi from being able to control position the way he usually does in his fights. Now, Austin Bashi was able to he's a very game fighter, and he's young, so keep watching Austin Bashi. But his cardio, his pace, his pressure, all to be commended. Jose Delgado showed that with good counter wrestling, you can keep a fight with Austin Bashi on the feet. And if you do have hands, if you do have enough tricks on the feet, you will outclass Austin Bashi, but you have to be good. And Jose Delgado is. He was able to use his frame and his range to control the fight on the feet. And he had way more power in his shots and was just able to do more damage to Austin Bashi than Austin Bashi was able to do to him. And he was able to dictate the pace of the fight. So, congratulations to Jose Delgado. We had those fights. Levi Rodriguez Jr. versus Felipe Franco. I went with Levi Rodriguez Jr. No reason. I was wrong in the last video. I said he was back after a failed drug test. That's not true. That's how little I knew about these guys when I made my pick. This was Levi Rodriguez's debut. He looked good in the beginning of the fight versus Felipe Franco. I thought he was looking confident, but towards the end of that first round, Felipe Franco showed a more complete skill set and an athleticism and strength advantage. And in the second round, he was able to get it to the ground and get Levi Rodriguez out. Commentary was commenting on how he was training with Jailton Almeida and making jokes about how he might not be able to finish the fight. And he showed that he's got a chip on his shoulder if he's ever going to be compared to Jailton Almeida. So shout out to Felipe Franco for anti-Almeidaing in the on the prelims there. We had Siakhan Cole versus Jean-Paul Lobosniani. Got to put some more respect on JPL's name. Another fight where Jean-Paul Lobosniani is he was a bigger guy, and I do think that was a factor in the fight. But make no mistake, the Siakhan Ko that showed up is the Siakhan Ko that's been showing up to all of his fights. He was getting work done. He was keeping his technique. He stayed smart on the feet, smart on the ground. But Jean-Paul Lobosniani showed that he kind of had an edge in both. You know? Jean-Paul Lobosniani, I got to be honest, it was a competitive fight, but Jean-Paul Lobosniani showed to me that he is better than Siakam Cohen, better than I thought. Um, so I'm going to keep more of an eye on John Paul Bosniani. Yeah, I think it's going to be worthwhile for me to learn how to pronounce his name. So shout out to JPL. We also had Alden Correa versus Stuart Nickel. Stuart Nickel showed up game tonight. Actually, in the uh, backstage footage they were showing in the locker rooms of Stuart Nickel getting ready for his match, and he was doing his little mock scrambles. I was thinking, you know what? Maybe Stuart Nickel might surprise us tonight, and he surprised me tonight. I know a lot of people might think that Alden Correa didn't perform very well tonight, that he might have got fraud checked, but that's not the case. Alden Correa had a very good performance against a very game Stuart Nickel. Uh, how do you live up to a 10-1 performance? There were some what seemed like questionable decisions from Alden Correa, but you know, we don't know how much heat Stuart Nickel was actually throwing. Maybe Alden Correa felt something from Stuart Nickel that we weren't seeing, and Stuart Nickel um, seemed to have more of an advantage on the ground. At least with the wrestling, Alden Correa really went for those submission attempts. It seems like his advantage was way more on the feet, but again, I'm not going to act like I know more than Alden Correa in that fight. He gets it done. He impressed me. Contender in the flyweight division. Last fight for Stuart Nickel on his contract. Hopefully, they give him a little, maybe like a 1 or 2 fight extension. You know, that was pretty good for Stuart Nickel. We gotta give him props for that. It was a good fight. We also had Alvin Guzzi Hines and R.J. Harris. Even in a heavyweight fight, we got shown big man things here. R.J. Harris sleeps Alvin Guzzi. Alvin Guzzi during weigh-ins, I was hoping I'd see a juicy Guzzi. I mentioned that I saw a loosey Guzzi, and it made me pretty confident that RJ Harris was gonna come out with this. I didn't think that RJ Harris would make it look quite as easy, because when I watched his fights, I did think his striking was sloppy, but I also thought it was labored. And I really didn't rate his grappling, but the striking that he showed, while it was still pretty sloppy, was way more effective than I thought it was going to be. And that uppercut, the way that it took Guzzi into the air, is like remarkable. Highlight moment. And I got honestly a little teary-eyed when he got up on the mic and had his post-fight non-speech. I hope he got that bonus. I hope he gets to enjoy that with his the birth of his baby coming up here. R.J. Harris, you were my enemy before coming into this. You are my friend now. Like some other fighters on this card. Last fight of the night, which was actually the first fight of the night, it was Anna Melisano versus Deone Barbosa. And Deone Barbosa outclassed Anna Melisano pretty handily in the first round. Got the submission finish. Did a good job of demonstrating why tough is no longer a very good indicator of UFC level competition. It's just a pretty good reality show, and hopefully they get do some big things on that front. You know, get a bunch of yahoos together and let's get Ilya Taporia, Patty Pimblett hosting one of those, coaching for one of those seasons, huh? Anyway, it's a great card. Went 5-7. were we 11 and 14 on the channel right now. That's not gonna stop us, you know. Shout out to Oklahoma City. Shout out to Tommy McMillan. Shout out to Vape Nation. Shout out to Herb Dean. Shout out to Illegal Shots to the Head. Shout out to the commentary making fun of Herb Dean. Shout out America. Shout out the internet. Shout out you. Shout out goodbye.